The hidden origins of humanity shocked the galaxy's silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence before something terrible. A listening station on the edge of human space picked up a signal, a distress call, broken, panicked, filled with screams, then static. Then nothing. The operators stared at their screens, confused. No name, no coordinates, just fear in the voices. Something was happening in the galaxy. Something big, something close, and humanity was about to be pulled into it, even though most of the galaxy didn't even know humanity existed. The Hidden Republic, for centuries, the Terran Republic lived in secrecy, not because they were weak, but because they were alone. Surrounded by empty star regions that larger empires used as buffer zones, the Terran Republic was allowed to grow without interference. Other civilizations believed humanity was small, insignificant, and not worth attention, and the humans used that misunderstanding very well. They built quietly. They industrialized rapidly. They colonized star after star. They unified their culture through discipline, education, and shared purpose. Every child learned engineering. Every colony could manufacture starships. Every citizen had basic military training. On paper, they looked peaceful. In reality, they were prepared for the worst possible future. They did not trust the galaxy, because the galaxy had never helped them. The first warning, then came the fall of the Aston Concordat, a neighboring nation, small but not weak. Its last broadcast echoed across space. They are coming. Do not let them reach you, but who were they? The signals stopped before the Terran could answer. Soon, deep space telescopes detected new ships approaching. Triangular, heavy, reptilian hull designs, marked with the emblem of the Rugari Empire, a known expansionist superpower in distant regions, except humanity did not know of them. And the Rugari did not know of humanity. The two civilizations had existed, side by side for generations, without realizing the other existed until... Now the Rugari believed the star region ahead of them was empty. They planned to push through it to attack a large rival. They expected open space, silence, nothing. Instead, they reached the Tidy system and froze, because there, orbiting every moon, every rock, every planet, were guns, not decorative guns. Not ceremonial defenses, fortresses, war platforms. Interlocking kill zones, the kind only a species absolutely prepared for war would build. The first contact, the Rugari commander sent a broadcast. This territory belongs to the Rugari Empire now. Surrender your stations and live. The human reply came instantly, a woman's voice, calm, emotionless. You have trespassed into Terran space. Turn back immediately, no threat, no anger, just certainty. The Rugari laughed. No one speaks to an empire like that. They ordered their fleet to fire. 16 minutes. What happened next became legend. Terran ships did not form neat defensive lines. They did not wait. They did not negotiate. They moved, faster than the Rugari could track. Sharper than anything the Rugari had seen. In perfect silence, no battle cries, no warnings, only precision. Missiles burned white. Railguns flashed like lightning. Interdiction fields locked space itself. The Rugari tried to retreat, but space did not open for them. 16 minutes later. The Rugari fleet was gone, not damaged. Not partly destroyed. Gone. The Rugari High Command received one message from what was left of their fleet. A shaky voice, crying, terrified. They are not what we thought. They are not weak. They are not primitive. They are ready. Then silence. The galaxy takes notice. For the first time, the galaxy turned its eyes toward the small, quiet human buffer state and asked, who are they? No propaganda, no drama, no empire slogans. Just one truth. Humanity had grown strong in the dark, and now the galaxy had knocked on their door. The war had begun. The war no one expected. The galaxy believed it understood war. Empires fought slow, political battles. Move a fleet here, blockade a system there, negotiate, threaten, retreat. But what humanity did next, no one was ready for, because humans did not fight like the galaxy. Humans fought like a species that had survived alone. A species that had built itself in silence. A species trained to endure cold, hunger, fear, and death, without anyone coming to save them. And now someone had stepped into their home. This was not just war. This was response. The Rugaria turn after their crushing first defeat. The Rugari Empire did what every large and proud empire does. They refused to believe the truth. They sent a new fleet. A bigger one. Heavier armor, more guns, more veterans. Their commanders spoke with anger. We will crush this unknown nation and make their worlds burn. They expected fear, begging, surrender. But when they arrived in human space, there were no human ships waiting, no fleets, no armies. The system looked calm, too calm. They scanned. Nothing. One Rugari officer muttered, "Where did they go?" Then the lights on their sensors turned red. The ambush human warships rose out of the darkness, not from hyperspace, not from warp trails, but from the shadows of planets themselves. They had been sitting there, waiting, watching. The Rugari screamed, "How did they hide?" How did we not detect? But there was no time to finish the sentence. Human fleets did not fight for honor. No speeches, no warnings. They attacked with calculation so precise it felt like cruelty. Strike the engines first. Then the command ships. Then the fuel carriers. Then the life support. Leave the enemy alive long enough to understand they had lost, but not long enough to recover. This was not chaos. This was art. A Rugari officer, trembling, whispered into his radio. They fight like they have done this 1,000 times. But they had not. They had simply practiced every day for a war that might never come. Now, it had come. And they were ready. Human strategy, the Terran High Command understood something the Rugari never considered. You do not defeat an empire by killing its soldiers. You defeat it by breaking its ability to fight. So instead of chasing victories, humanity went for the heart. Communication arrays vanished. Supply depots were destroyed in silent raids. Rugari bases lost food, fuel, weapons, and support. Entire fleets started starving in space. No explosions, no glory. Just quiet, efficient destruction. One Rugari admiral slammed his fist against the command console. "Where are these humans coming from?" The answer was terrifying. Everywhere. Humanity did not have more ships. Humanity simply used them smarter. Every citizen in the Republic had a role, not soldiers, not civilians. Defenders the Republic speaks. Finally, after weeks of Rugari losses, humanity broadcast a message to the galaxy for the first time in centuries. No anthem. No leader's speech. Just a single statement sent across every listening post. We did not want war. You brought it to our door. Leave our space, or we will end your empire. The galaxy froze. Who were these humans? Where had they come from? How could a small republic defeat one of the region's great military powers? The answer was simple. Humanity had built itself in the dark, and darkness had made it strong. Fear spreads. The Rugari Senate panicked. Reports came from every border, fleets, missing outposts starving, generals, dead without signs of battle, entire carrier groups, refusing to fight again. One Senate member shouted, "We cannot allow this unknown race to humiliate us." Another replied, "Unknown? They are not unknown anymore." And then the Rugari made a desperate decision. They would launch a full-scale invasion of the Terran Republic. Every fleet, every soldier, every resource. They believed overwhelming force would break the humans. They believed numbers would win. They believed pride was strategy. They were wrong, because humanity did not fear destruction. Humanity had already lived through it and survived. The Rugari thought they understood war, but they had not seen humanity cornered. They had not seen what we become when our home is threatened. When humanity stopped holding back, space was quiet. Too quiet. Like the universe itself was holding its breath. On every Terran world, on every ship, in every factory, in every classroom and home, one message was received. The Rugari Empire is coming. Full invasion. No one screamed. No one ran. No one begged. The citizens simply stood up, walked to their stations, and prepared. There was no panic, only something far more powerful. Unity, the kind of unity only born from centuries of survival in silence. The storm on the horizon, the Rugari invasion force, was beyond massive, a chain of fleets stretching across star maps like the spine of a monster. Destroyers, carriers, planet crackers, shock trooper transports. Millions of soldiers. To the galaxy, it looked like a guaranteed victory, an empire swallowing a small republic. News networks whispered, "The humans will surrender." Diplomats said, "They cannot stand against such power." Even some neutral empires watched with pity, but the Terran Republic did not blink because they were not preparing to win a war. They were preparing to survive one, and survival is something humanity had always been good at. The Silent Order, the Terran High Command gathered in the Capital Command Hall. There were no speeches. There was no music. No talk of glory, only orders. Short, precise, cold civilian. Ships to shelters beneath planetary crusts, all. Orbital cannons to standby, fleet. Commanders to pre-assigned sectors. Signal corps to blackout. Mode, and one final command. No negotiations, not because they refused peace, but because peace was never offered. The Rugari wanted conquest, not conversation. The first blow. When the Rugari invasion arrived, they came like a tidal wave. Hundreds of warships entering human space at once, tearing open hyperspace. Lanes with brute force. The sky above the Terran, colony world of Vintara, turned red with engine fire. Cities watched as the night sky filled with alien metal. The Rugari commander broadcast across the system. "This world now belongs to the Rugari Empire. Kneel, and you will be allowed to live." There was silence. Then a single reply from the planet's planetary defense AI. "No." And the sky lit up. The humans stopped hiding. For the first time in the war, humanity revealed its real weapons. Colossal rail cannons, buried under planetary crust, rose like giants from mountainsides. Mass-driver artillery fired shells large enough to punch through warship armor. Planetary shields shimmered into existence like auroras made of steel. Space above the planet turned into a minefield, a laser web, a cage of death. The Rugari expected a frightened colony. What they found was a fortress planet, a world built not for peace, but for siege. The price of underestimation. Rugari launched dropships, thousands. They believed ground battle would be easy. They had fought many species before. Most panicked when troops landed, but the humans did not run. They waited. Hidden bunkers opened. Armored infantry stepped forward. Not soldiers, citizens, miners holding rail carbines. Teachers in exosuits. Engineers carrying anti-armor launchers. Mothers and fathers, wearing combat plating. They did not fight like warriors. They fought like people, defending their home. There is no army more dangerous than that. The Rugari learned this the hard way. The shift in the galaxy news of the battle reached neutral worlds. Everyone expected humanity to break. Instead, the Rugari broke first. Captains abandoned ships. Troopers fled landing zones. Command chains collapsed. One captured Rugari officer whispered during interrogation, "We did not fight humans. We fought a nation that refused to die." And the galaxy felt something it had never felt toward humanity before. Fear. The message that changed everything after securing Vintara. Humanity transmitted a message to every star empire. We will not surrender. We will not kneel. If you come to take our worlds, then you come to die. There was no arrogance in the voice, no rage, only certainty, the kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are. Ending, CTA, speak. Dramatically to keep audience watching. The Rugari thought they were facing a minor nation. They were facing a species shaped by isolation, struggle, and endurance. And now the galaxy is starting to understand humanity does not fear war. Humanity learns from war. The truth that shook the galaxy, the battlefield was quiet now. Smoke floated slowly between broken Rugari armor and shattered stone. Human soldiers walked through the ruins of Vintara, exhausted but unbroken. They had survived the impossible. They had proved the galaxy wrong, but while humanity rebuilt defenses, while factories roared louder, while fleets mobilized for the next wave, someone else was watching, from far beyond human space. From a region of the galaxy filled with civilizations so advanced that humanity had been nothing but a whisper to them. They had seen the battle. They had studied the strategy. They had analyzed the efficiency and precision, and they recognized something terrifying. Not the ships, not the weapons, not the armor, but the faces behind the helmets. The Humerian Arrivaler, a massive shadow appeared at the edge of human space. Not Rugari. Not hostile, something larger, older, far more powerful. A Humerian command vessel, accompanied by a diplomatic escort fleet, the largest ship humanity had ever seen. A moving city of metal and blue light, every Terran sensor lit up like fire, humanity prepared for battle. But no weapons were aimed at them. Instead, a transmission arrived on all frequencies. We request peace. We request conversation. We request answers. This was the first time humanity had heard their voice. The meeting place was selected. The massive Humerian flagship. Resilience. Human delegates arrived in sealed formal suits. The Humerians waited for them in a grand hall. 3 towering figures in elegant armor, glowing with psionic energy. They were enormous. Hundreds of years old, eyes made of soft blue light. The Terran diplomats looked tiny beside them. But they did not show fear until something unexpected happened. One of the Humerians looked at the Terrans and froze, not in confusion, not in curiosity, but in recognition. Slowly, carefully, the Humerian spoke. "Remove your helmets." The Terran diplomats hesitated, but they obeyed. The atmosphere was breathable. They did not fear, and when their faces were revealed, the Humerians reacted like they had seen ghosts. The shocking truth. The Humerian medic stepped closer. Eyes wide, the Terran diplomat stepped back nervous. "Why are you staring at us?" one Terran asked. The medic's voice shook. "Because you are us." Silence, not confusion, not disbelief, just silence that made the heart stop. The doctor took a blood sample. Ran the scan, checked again, then whispered, "It is true. They carry the markers, the genetic traits, the disease. Zixian disease, a condition that affected Humerian children, causing short lifespans, early maturity, and death before adulthood. Children who were placed on a medical evacuation ship thousands of years ago. A ship that vanished. Lost. Never found." The Humerian medic looked at the Terrans with soft, heartbreaking sadness. "You are the children we lost." The galaxy did not abandon humanity. Humanity had been abandoned by accident. The room turns cold. The Terran delegates stood frozen. Their hearts pounding. One finally said, "No, whoever those children were, they died long ago. We are a people. We built our worlds. We earned our existence." The lead Humerian spoke gently. "You did. And you did it with no guidance. No cure, no comfort, and no family." His voice trembled, not with anger, but with grief. "Your parents mourned you for millennia. That was when everything changed. This was not about war anymore. This was about identity, about history, about belonging, about the right to exist, the cost of revelation." Humerians believed they were doing a good thing. They believed they had found their lost children. They believed they were saving them. But they did not understand. The Terran were not children anymore. They were a nation, a civilization, a people who had earned every breath, every world, every victory. To the Humerians, the Terran were family. To the Terran, the Humerians were strangers, and strangers were ordering them to come home. Come home meant surrender your sovereignty. Come home meant your independence ends. Come home meant you are too young to rule yourselves. The kindness felt like chains. The galaxy has seen humanity's strength. Now it will see humanity's identity challenged. The Terran Republic has a choice: accept the people who claim to be their family, or defend their right to remain free. And the next decision will shake the stars. The choice that could break the stars, the galaxy watched in silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of a held breath. Two civilizations stood face to face. The Terran Republic, forged in isolation, built in struggle, hardened by war. The Humerian state, ancient, powerful, wise, and united by blood and history. The Humerians believed they had found their lost children. The humans believed they had found strangers trying to take their freedom. Both sides were right. Both sides were wrong, and everyone knew. The next decision would decide if the galaxy lived or burned. The request after the shocking revelation aboard the Resilience, the Humerians formally spoke. We do not come as conquerors. We come as family. Return with us.
Let us heal you.
Let us bring you home. Their voices were soft, gentle, full of sadness and love. But to the Terran delegates, those words felt like chains. The Terran leader, Delegate Saren Vale, answered, We thank you for your concern, but we are not children. We are a nation. We choose our own path. The room froze, not in anger, but in heartbreak. The difference in worlds to the Humerians. Children were precious, sacred, protected at all costs. To find thousands of children lost in time, grown into adults who had lived short, painful lives without medicine, without comfort, without family. It was unbearable. The Humerian commander stepped forward. His voice trembled, not with rage, but with emotion. You are dying. You live less than 1/10 our years. You have never known what you lost. How can you refuse help? Silence. This time Saren's voice was a whisper. Because everything we are, we earned through pain. We built our worlds without parents holding our hands. We cannot give up our freedom, even to the ones who love us. The Humerians understood the words, but they could not accept them. The broadcast heard across the stars. The Humerian state sent out a galaxy-wide announcement. We have found our lost children. They suffer from Zixian disease. We will retrieve them and bring them home. The message sounded noble, compassionate, heroic. But to the Terran Republic, it was a declaration of forced annexation. The Terran Senate gathered in emergency session. There were no cheers, no shouting, only cold, controlled unity. Senator Althus spoke. We are not ill. We are not helpless. We are not children. We are Tehran. And the Senate answered with a single vote. We will not surrender. The breaking of peace, when the message reached the Humerians. Grief turned to resolve. Admiral Taurus Alaton of the Humerian Third Fleet spoke publicly. Love is not always gentle. Sometimes love protects by force, for their own good. We will retrieve our lost ones, even if they resist. To the galaxy, this sounded tragic. To the Terrans, it sounded like conquest wearing a smile. And so, fleets began to move. Humerian ships, vast, brilliant, glowing with psionic power, crossed into the buffer region. The Rugari Empire watched from the shadows, terrified. For the first time they understood. The humans they fought were not the final form of their species. They were only the beginning. The Terran response factories increased output. War academies opened emergency training waves. Children volunteered. Veterans returned from retirement. Engineers who once built starships for colonization now built warships for survival. But unlike the Rugari War, this one was different. There was no hatred in this war. No rage, no vengeance, only pain. Because humanity was preparing to fight the very people who should have been their family. Captain Lyra Jane of the Terran Fifth. Fleet summarized the feeling. We are not afraid. We are heartbroken. The final message before war, before fleets met in battle. Humanity sent one last transmission, not a threat. Not a demand, just truth. We know who we came from. We know what we have lost. But do not take our future from us. If you try to reclaim us by force, you will become our enemy. The Humerians replied with sorrow. And if we allow you to suffer alone, we become monsters. Two civilizations. One love, one wound. No answer. The stage is set. Love has become conflict. Family has become threat. And now, The greatest fleet in the galaxy is moving toward human space. In Part 6, the first shot is fired, and the galaxy will never be the same. The war of love and fire, the space between the stars was no longer empty. It was full of movement, engines, power, destiny. The Humerian Grand Fleet was approaching human space. These were not the fleets of bullies or conquerors. They were fleets of rescuers. At least that is what the Humerians believed. They marched to save their lost children. But humanity did not see salvation. They saw chains. Two civilizations, connected by blood, severed by time, were now moving toward the same star system. Not to meet. Not to talk, but to fight. The galaxy watched. No one blinked, because everyone knew this would not be a war of territory. This would be a war of identity, a war for the soul of a people. The day the sky darkened. The first Humerian fleet entered the Terran border system of Avaris. The system's sky changed color as hundreds of ships emerged from hyperspace. Their hulls glowed with blue psionic currents, like angelic titans descending from heaven. To some, they looked beautiful. To others, terrifying. On the command bridge of the Terran Defense Station, Commander Celine Oren whispered, "So, those are the ones we came from. No hatred, just sorrow." Terran officers stared at their screens, silent. They were looking at the closest thing to family they would ever have. And now, they had to stop them. The first transmission, the Humerian flagship, opened a channel. The voice was gentle, pained. "Terran Republic. This is your last chance, please, stand down. Let us bring you home." Commander Celine exhaled slowly. Her voice was steady. "We are home." Silence. Painful silence. The kind that breaks hearts. Then, "Very well." The Humerian fleet powered weapons, slowly, like a parent preparing to discipline a child they love. The Terran fleet responded instantly. No hesitation, no fear, just duty. The battle begins. There was no shout. No dramatic order, no music. The first shot was a single flash of light, a warning shot from a Humerian cruiser aimed to disarm a Terran frigate. A gentle shot. A warning shot. The Terran frigate did not move. It fired back, not at weapons, not at shields, but straight into the Humerian bridge. Not a warning, a decision. The first Humerian ship fell burning into the void, and then the galaxy caught fire. Humanians versus humans. The Humerians fought like gods. Their ships moved with psionic coordination, thought-guiding steel. The Terrans fought like survivors. Their ships moved with instinct, experience guiding tactics. Where Humerians were elegant, humans were relentless. Where Humerians tried to disable, humans aimed to end. One Humerian fleet commander spoke during the battle. Voice shaking, "Why won't they yield? Why won't they trust us?" And the answer came from every human transmission. Because freedom is not given. It is made. The cost of love on a battlefield. Love is the most dangerous weapon. The Humerians hesitated. They tried not to kill. They tried to spare. The Terrans did not hesitate. They fought to survive. They fought to keep their children free, their future free, their identity free. And hesitation is death. Humerian ships fell, one by one, slowly, painfully. The Humerian fleet was stronger, but humanity was fighting to exist. There is no power greater than that. The moment. Everything turned. Near the end of the first battle, a single transmission echoed across open channels. A young Terran pilot's voice, broken, crying as he fired his weapons. "We would have loved you if we had known you." The battlefield froze. Even the Humerian admiral stopped moving, because in that moment, both sides understood the same truth. This war was not about power. This war was about time. Time that was stolen. Time that was lost. Time that could never be returned. The Humerians had lost their children. The Terrans had lost their parents. Both sides mourned. Both sides wept. Both sides kept fighting, because love does not always heal. Sometimes, love breaks. This was only the first battle. And already, both sides bleed. The Humarians still believe they are saving their children. The Terrans still believe they are protecting their freedom. And the galaxy cannot decide who is right. In Part 7, a final decision will be made, and only one future can survive. The last name of humanity, the battlefield burned across the stars. Wreckage drifted like ghosts. Signal buoys blinked weakly. The remains of ships, Humarian and Terran alike, floated in silent grief. Neither side had won. Neither side had lost. Both were wounded. And somewhere, inside that wounded silence, something began to change. Not in fleets, not in strategies, but in hearts. Humanity and Humarians were finally beginning to understand something that should have been obvious from the very beginning. This was not a war between enemies. This was a war between a family that had been separated by tragedy. The aftermath on the Terran capital world. Memorial bells rang. For the first time in centuries, families stood in the streets holding candles. Not mourning victory, not mourning defeat, mourning the simple, painful truth. They had fought the people who should have been their parents. Soldiers stood with heads bowed. Some cried openly. No one judged them, because the Republic had always been strong. But this pain was different. This pain did not come from loss of ships or territory. This was the pain of knowing what could have been. On the Humarian flagship, Admiral Taurus, Alaton sat alone on his command bridge. He had led fleets for centuries. He had seen thousands of battles. He had never hesitated. But now, his hands shook. He whispered to himself, "We came to save them. Yet we only hurt them. What have we done?" Behind him, his officers watched him break. Not as a commander, but as a parent, grieving a child. The surrender that wasn't. The galaxy waited. Would the Terran surrender to avoid extinction? Would the Humarians force assimilation to save them? Neither side moved. The universe held its breath. Then, a single ship left the Terran capital. A small, unarmed diplomatic vessel. White lights, no weapons. It flew toward the Humarian flagship. Everyone expected surrender. But what came next shocked the galaxy, the meeting of truth. Terran envoy was a young woman named Solara Jane, barely 30 years old, already a war survivor. She stood before the Humarian leadership with no armor. No guards, no fear. Her voice was quiet, broken but steady. "We cannot return to you. We cannot become what you hoped we would be." The Humarian council lowered their heads, but she continued. "But we are still yours. We are your legacy, not your children anymore. But your future." Silence. A silence deeper than war, deeper than grief. Solara placed something on the center table. The Terran flag. Worn, stained, scarred, but whole. "We will not kneel. We will not bow. But we will not sever our connection either. We choose to stand beside you, not below you." The room filled with emotion too great to describe. Not triumph. Not defeat. Recognition. The new agreement. The Humarians did not annex the Terran. The Terran did not isolate themselves again. Instead, they formed something the galaxy had never seen. Union of two branches of the same species, equal, independent. Connected by choice, not force. The Rugari Empire, once the terror of the region, was placed under Terran administration and Humarian oversight. The buffer zone was gone. Humanity was no longer hidden. Humanity now stood in the center of galactic history, not as victims, not as children, not as conquerors, but as a name spoken with respect. The final message to the Galaxia broadcast was sent across every network, station, and relay. A message from both governments, spoken by Solara and Admiral Alaton together. We were separated by time. Not by destiny. We are not the same, and yet we are one. We choose each other. Let the stars remember this day, the day humanity reclaimed not just its place, but its family. The galaxy trembled, not from war, from hope. Ending CTA, deliver slowly and powerfully. This was not just a war story. This was a story about identity, about loss, About love, about the right to choose who you become, and humanity chose freedom and family together. If you want another HFY story like this, comment next story, like the video if your heart felt something. Subscribe because we don't just tell stories. We remember worlds. And we build new ones.